or to the cloud. There we go. Okay, welcome everybody. This is a PRADO water cooler session. These are usually, sometimes they're discussion, sometimes they're presentation. This one's more of a discussion, like informal format. I don't know about you, but I'm really excited to be here to learn from everyone, maybe a little bit of commiseration, we'll see. And I have asked if you know how, if you could add your station to your or where you're joining us from to your name on Zoom. It's really helpful just to know when people are talking. This session will be recorded. We'll share it later. Just as a quick introduction, I'm Katie Miller from Vermont Public. I'm the director of membership there, and I work with the awesome Sarah Matthews, who is also on this call, who is in charge of digital fundraising for us here in Vermont. And I'm also on the board of PRADO, and we're really excited to have you all with us today. And yeah, so let's jump into it. I gave everybody the prompt to bring either something that's working or something that's really bombing to share with the group. And I know that there were some people who had some really initial enthusiasm. So I'm wondering if anybody probably use the raise hand feature is best because there's so many of us. If anybody wants to share something that's working at your station, or maybe an example you've seen at another station you're curious about. Anybody have anything they want to share? Kristen, go ahead.
All right. I'm like, I can't figure out where raise the hand is. They've moved everything again. So something that we've been doing for about a year now is a social media only premium during our drives. So it's at a super low level. It's $25. We're not asking them to become recurring donors. We're not asking them to do anything other than get their name and email address so that then they're in our system and we've got them for the rest of their lives, as I like to say. And we have really seen success with that. It's what we've found is that it's super important that it's hyper local. So like our first one, we did a goose talking into a microphone, because if you've ever been to Boise, you know there's geese everywhere. I can hear them flying over my house every morning, and I live nowhere near water. So they're everywhere, and people loved them. They thought they were so funny. I want a goose hat. And then we did a news daddy hat, which was fun to explain to management what a news daddy is and what big daddy energy is. But once they got it, we were fine. And those were actually really, really popular. Those were way more popular than the goose hats were. So we've done those for the last couple of drives because we are still getting brand new donors in from that. And I'd say about half of the people who take a hat are brand spanking new donors to us. So we count that as a success. We talked about switching it up and doing like a social only sweepstakes, but the hats are working, so why mess with it? So we're going to stick with it until they don't work anymore, and then we'll try something else.
Kristen, can I ask you a follow-up question? When you have the news daddy hat people come in or the goose hat people, do you have any sort of special plan for those donors to then move them either into sustaining membership or increase their giving, or do they just sort of go into your regular fold?
So currently they go into our regular fold. When we did the goose hats, we actually sent a special email just to that group of people like 6 months later with all of our bird coverage. We ironically have a lot of bird coverage here. It's a thing. And so, but they didn't really open it. They didn't really care, is what we got from it. And then a year later, we emailed them again and we were like, hey, it's been a year. We'd love to have you make another donation and stay part of the family. And, about half of them did, which to me is great. So, 50% retention rate from those new members. I'll take it. It could be better. It could be worse. So I'm happy with 50%. And I saw the question from Holland. It was only on social and during our on-air campaign. It was during that same time. And we actually have decided now to just leave the hat up on our social links, because if somebody comes across it later, we know how social media works. Sometimes people find the weirdest crap from 6 months ago we still want them to be able to get their News Daddy hat if they want one. So I wish I had one in the office. I could put it on, but I don't. It's at home. I wear it on the weekends. If you
I
want
think,
one, you can go to our social media page and make a $25 donation.
yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the things like I keep talking about your newest daddy hats here to anyone who will listen. And if I had one, I would wear it every single day to work, probably. But I think what I think is was smart about that, and is actually an idea that we got from your newest daddy hat thing that we did on social in Vermont, was to offer a beanie during the winter season just on social media and do it at that low entry point,
Mhm.
as a way, like it's like an acquisition strategy really to like get people in at the low amount.
Do y'all mind me asking? We're really interested in trying to do something like this. Um, like everybody, we're facing trying to make up part of our budget. So there's any kind of new spend is getting questioned. Like, if you don't mind sharing, like how much were you spending on the ads?
So we try, yeah, it's a one-time $25 donation. We're spending about, I'd have to go to my social media team, but I think we spend about $100 on it. It's not a lot of money. It's really just trying to get in front of those similar audiences on social media. And we found that more people come to us from Instagram than Facebook with this specific campaign. So, I mean, the spend is the spend with Meta, but we try to focus it more on Instagram and try to get it pushed further that way. But we do cover all of our costs with that $25. So that was kind of like, it doesn't mean we're bringing in anything extra, but we're at least breaking even with this, and we are bringing in new donors, which is the grand scheme of all of it. So.
Are you doing anything to convert them to sustainers or the like afterwards?
Yeah, so in over the summer, we're going to reach out to everyone who got a News Daddy hat. The week we do Sustainer Appreciation Week every summer. It's really not that big of a deal. It's a pretty easy lift, and I won't talk about it here, but if y'all are interested, feel free to message me on Slack and I can tell you about it. But the week before that, we're going to reach out to them and say, hey, we'd love to have you become a sustaining member. Sustaining member week is next week. Here's all the benefits you get from taking part in that week. And we haven't done it yet with the social media people, but we have had good success with it with just our regular donors who are just annual donors, trying to get them converted to sustainers that week before we even do honor messaging. Not a sustainer, now would be the time to become one. All right, I'll let somebody else tell their idea.
Yeah, does anybody else have something that, even if it's not something you know that works yet, something that you're experimenting with, trying, like um in this same realm? Colby, I saw you unmute. Do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, one thing we've kind of been doing more lately is really pictures of recent events, recent places we've been at to highlight that we were here and your support makes it possible for us to do more of these types of events and community happenings. So I feel like that's worked really well. We sometimes will get good feedback on that, people saying, "Oh, I was there," or people just interacting with it. So that's done well. And then it's done well forever, but just our staff wearing different swag items and holding different things. So I think getting staff on board to do that is really important as well. Yeah, it's kind of the I think that's in terms of just what's working, I would say. People, I'm just posting pictures of places we've been at, keeping it current.
I'm curious because Kristen, you mentioned something about having a social media team. I know not everybody's on camera. And maybe if we did like the raise your hand thing, like how many folks have a whole separate digital team?
I should specify it's actually one person. I call it a team, but it's Katie.
Mm.
Team
Still,
of one.
but she's still dedicated. That's all she's doing is digital.
Yes, she's a digital employee only, and she focuses on social media.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that brings up a really important point, Rachel, which is like depending on your station size and your staff size and all of that, it can impact your ability to do so many of these things. And I was just having a conversation. I was in my own one-on-one with my supervisor, and we were talking about, sort of my strategy behind, some of this stuff, especially when we were talking about digital fundraising, the implementation and the design phase might be a lot of work. But my goal is to have as much of it be either extremely simple to implement, like re-implement again and like rerun something, or have it be automated or like a lot of things, like kind of like renewals, like, yeah, we're updating those letters, but like the process kind of runs itself at this point because we've been doing it long enough. And to have eventually these digital things feel like that so that it doesn't always feel, I don't know about you all, but like so much of it can feel like you're just doing so much new all the time on top of what you already do. And it just like the pile feels like a lot. And I think especially when we talk about social media, any form of digital fundraising, like the size of your team and their capacity on your team is really going to dictate what you can implement, for sure.
If I can jump in on that, so I'm our director of digital fundraising at OPP. When I started, it was just me, and we've been fortunate enough to kind of bring on 2 additional people, including Jen Wexler here. But we got to that point by being able to justify it by focusing on things like automations and implementing things that were wins. Like we talked about it quite a few times before. We do our sustainer drawing emails to all our sustainers. That's an increase ask before every drive. That is always our best performing email. I started implementing or using that as a recapture tool. That always performs really well for us. Our vehicle search. So just being really ruthless about what you're doing and automate all the things you can, like your sustainer decline series, your renewals, and keep a close eye on the data. So
I appreciate it. I'm still relatively new to the public media sphere, so I'm just kind of getting a sense of how everybody else is doing things and, scaling, I guess.
I'm curious we've changed a lot of things in the last year, but at WNC we have a digital team that is reporting to our content director. And through that, we also have a group of people, an organization we work with, Next After, which I think, does OPB work with Next After too? Is anybody else who work? Yeah.
We just started.
So we've started doing like content offers, and I'll let Emily and or Ann talk about those. But also we did a big before the election, we built out a big political e-newsletter. And then from there, we're trying to figure out, okay, now we're going to go on this donor journey and try to get people to convert. I mean, we have asked them for money, obviously, already, but I'm curious if anybody's had any huge success with e-newsletters or anything like that. And I don't know if y'all want to talk about the content offer, Emily or Ann.
Sure. Yeah. So we've done several content offers through Next After. The initial ones were PDFs. So folks would sign up through Facebook ads to receive the content offer via email. And those were focused on like things to do in the triangle, some more like hikes, outdoor events and things to do. And then we spun last year it was a limited edition e-newsletter. It was Elections 101, and it was basically evergreen content about elections and how to like register to vote and what are all of the different offices up for election this year? And then spun those folks into our politics newsletter that we launched in the summer. So a very interesting way for us to capture folks' folks' emails. So that's just an example of how our content offers work.
So has anybody had success with like e-newsletters and converting those people to donors? I mean, we hope to get them sponsored too, of course, at some point. I will tell OPB that the first time when we started working with Next After, we started building out. So we have a what's trending that we do every week, which is just like the top stories of the week. And we started doing those content offers, and then we would put those people into what's trending. We increased our email. So how many people was it? Do you know?
I don't know the exact number, but it's significant.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's tens of thousands. It's up to almost 80,000 now.
Yeah, we're almost 80,000 subscribers now. I don't recall what it started at before Next After's content offers.
It was about 40. I mean, I think we've almost nearly doubled that list since working with them. Yeah.
Wow.
And they take some work. I mean, you have to work back and forth with the news teams to kind of build these things out. But
I would say it's a lot of work for y'all.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're having, the news people are doing their jobs, and they're having like, okay, get us the copy. Yeah. But then Next After makes them pretty and pushes them out and does the ads for us. So it's expensive too.
And I will say with the Elections 101 series, we got a lot of good feedback from our politics team, said that they really enjoyed kind of working on something a little more like long form and in a different, outlet than they're used to. So that's been positive. And we're going to work on one next on education.
And now it's like the donor journey. How are we getting all these people to convert,
Yeah, like are we speaking to them differently? Like people who just sign up for like the politics newsletter. Like right now, we email all of our prospects kind of the same messaging during a fund drive. Like, is anybody out there doing anything that's like more tailored based on the newsletter that they're on? And also if they're on multiple newsletters, like how do you do it that like what's the kind of strategy, if anyone has any, behind communicating with, I guess, prospects trying to get that donor conversion for newsletter sign up specifically?
I don't know if anybody else is frustrated, but like we keep hearing we need to raise money digitally, and we should be more digital, and we should raise more money digitally. And then we're like, okay, how do we do it? We're trying to figure it out. We're asking people. So
yeah, we have a legislative newsletter just during our legislative session. And it's super popular. It has great open rates, great engagement. It grows by like 1,000 people every year. I'm still amazed there's people out there who still want to be added to this list. I'm like, where were you last year? And at the end of every legislative session, we do send a letter from our legislative reporter who says, thank you so much for joining me this session. If you missed any of the newsletters, here's our archive so you can catch up. If you ever have story ideas, here's how you can get in touch with me. And then it's not a super hard ask. And I think that's where we're making the mistake. I think we're too soft with our ask because we're not seeing that conversion. Like they're not then making a donation. We'll get a couple, but they're always all people that already give to us who are known. And so this year we're going to try a harder ask of like, hey, this content is not free. This is how many hours our legislative reporter spends at the State House during a legislative session. This is how much that costs. This means he can't report on anything else for these 3 months. And so trying a little harder of an ask, and we'll see how it goes. We did sell it this year. We have a sponsor for it this year, but all for a whopping $500 because I'd never sold it before. And I'm like, I don't know. So.
Yeah, I know that's the thing. Like, how do you price it? And we try to look at examples of other people. I mean, this is more, I guess, geared towards underwriting, but we have started doing the sponsored content emails, and they price those at $1,500 a piece. And they're doing them. Is it every other week? Isn't that right? Every other week, or is it once a month or every other week? Do you remember? I think it's every other week.
What? I think it's once a month.
Once a month, okay. And then they try to stay away from pledge weeks, but
yeah,
they sold out. So I was like, okay, you'll need to price them higher. And I mean, I always like to give context. So we have about 200,000 people that listen weekly. So when you hear that, we had 80,000 or 40,000 people, and we have 46,000 contributors. overall. So it's just for context. So.
I was about to say, we do a daily, a weekly, and a monthly. And there are advertising blocks in all of them that our weekly is sold through the summer. The dailies new that we just added it in. Our monthly is pretty well sold right now too, but we have a much smaller area that we're, a much smaller subscription rate. So
Is that a newsletter or a sponsored content?
That's newsletters. So we do a daily,
okay.
we do a daily that is our morning host does like a fun news story, and then 4 hard news from like the last 24 hours, kind of a roundup. And then the weekly is we do a photo of the week kind of deal that is one of the programs that we run. So it features that, and then a roundup of the top weekly stories. And then the monthly is more of our, here's the events that we're going to, things that you should know about. Like it just went out today. So it was kind of previewing our thank you items for Fund Drive and the events we have coming up in March. But I was just looking at those lists today.
Hats off to your morning edition host for doing an e-newsletter every day.
Yeah. Neil did it for like 10 years, and now we've just got Robin starting, and she takes it over. Because they don't have to be as timely, I think she just blocks them out, and it's just like a couple paragraphs and we move on. But it gives people a nice little light thing usually to start the day with. And people do really seem to like that one a lot.
That's funny. Our morning edition host does a daily news podcast for us. It's amazing what you can get these morning edition hosts to do.
We're
Our
desperate.
afternoon
that's
host would
great.
never do it, but
I wanted to share from the chat, Sarah, who I work with, shared this, but I just wanted to make sure it got into the recording too. We have, I don't know, so many newsletters and emails that go out at Vermont Public. But the one that is has the highest subscription rate and open rate is the Frequency, which is a daily news roundup. It's a complement to our daily news roundup podcast. And we had tried doing single sends and like lots of testing around single send asks specifically about the Frequency. And with like terrible results. And then we started incorporating asks in the email itself and saw some results, usually as like a banner at the top of the email, like a single color block, just like really bright, like call out, and saw some results. And then when we really started to see better results with that was during drives, or because that's when we have like new thank you gifts. We'll say like, hey, make a donation any amount and you'll get entered to win one of these thank you gifts. That was actually the highest motivator. Similarly, this wasn't in the chat, but I wanted to add that we've noticed when we do like pop-ups or web tiles during a drive, that usually the ones that perform the best are related to whatever the new thank you gift is. And usually that seems to be a motivator for that audience, for sure. And we like there's a bunch of other email related things we do, especially during drives, like during pledge. We've started incorporating other folks have talked about this, like sustainer upgrades. So upgrade and we'll target those based on their giving level and whether or not they've upgraded recently. But like upgrade your giving amount and get the new thank you gift. When they're eligible for a thank you gift anyway. And usually during a drive, we have what, Sarah? It's like somewhere between like 150 and 200 upgrades, something like that.
And usually we're not asking a huge amount. I'll send it out as honestly, it's probably not, I don't know. I send it out as a Google form, which I can't import in. So I'm manually updating these sustaining gifts, but honestly, I can't figure out a way to do it any other way. So it's a little tedious, but we are sending out this form. I just ask for their name, email address, and then how much they'd like to increase by. And I'll usually give them an array. So maybe $2, $5, 10, and then they can enter their own amount. And we often, I would say, see a lot of people almost doubling their giving, especially if they've been historically $5 a month sustainers. They'll bump themselves up to 10. And they'll get this new thank you gift, which either I think what also kind of helps incentivize it is I'm also offering it at not what we're saying on air. So if it's a $20 gift, maybe we're saying just increase your giving by any amount if they're kind of within that range. So maybe they're giving 10, they increase by 3, I'll give them that thank you gift. And they have a lot of success. And I don't see it. I also don't get a lot of unsubscribes from it either. So it's just people happy to engage and they do it. That's cool.
Yeah,
I had a
if y'all aren't asking for upgrades, I know this is digital, but either on air or during your email with emails, you could be leaving money on the table. I mean, we raise so much money from upgrades around our pledge time.
Yeah, we do too. We also send an email requesting increases or one-time donations, whatever makes them happiest. And then we also do a mailer in December that hits right before our December drive. And that one has been more successful than any email we have ever sent. So
I'm curious, I'm going to go backwards a little bit. Those who are talking about sponsored content and emails, I'm curious if you like what types of lists are you sending those to, and like what's the unsubscribes like what's the response to that? Because I know that's something a lot of stations are.
So we send it to our big list, which is what's trending. So it goes out to those 80,000 people. I think the unsubscribes are pretty low, aren't they, Emily?
Yeah, we haven't had very many.
We're very, I'll tell, nobody from my underwriting team is here and they're the ones that sell them. So I'll tell you that we're very protective of that copy. And
Yeah.
so like the first one that came out, I was like, yeah, no, we need to work on this. So like one of them actually had an ask in it for another organization. And I was like, no, that's not happening. We're not fundraising for someone else. So, we just changed it to, learn more about, whatever it was. It was an environmental group, like learn more about this group here, click here, But, my point to the underwriting team was, we want to do two things. We want to help your client, and give them, access to these wonderful people that give to us, because they're engaged citizens, obviously, if they're giving to us and they listen to public radio. But then number two, we don't want to make our listeners angry, and have a bad taste in their mouth about the organization they're getting the email from. It comes from us, but it still, clearly says sponsored content in the top. So, but I don't know. Did y'all have anything else, Emily or Ann, about the?
No, I mean, we're just very cognizant of what we're sending out and try to make it so it's like a benefit to our audience, like an event that they might want to attend. We're really kind of honed in on how does this benefit our subscription folks.
So would an email like that with the sponsored content go to like your sustainers or non-sustain, even not one-time givers, like just any group that you might be sending other types of emails to?
Yeah, that big group I'm talking about, what's trending, that includes all of our donors in it, unless they've specifically told us we don't want to get any emails from you. So,
But it's also folks that aren't donors that just have signed up for that email.
mhm.
I'm sorry,
And the
again,
one
how
thing I
much
would
do you-
say is think about how you price it, because we obviously underpriced it because they sold them out. So I've already told the underwriting team, like, you need to raise that for next year.
how much did you sell them for this year? Regina, you said 1,500?
1,500, but then we just found out, and this is a good lesson, that for an additional 1,000, you can have, and if you look at, I think, is it BURKQED that does this? If you look at their
the
site,
LAist, I think.
yeah, the LS, you'll see them that it's somewhere on the website. They'll have a presence where you can click and go through on your homepage. And they hadn't sold one of those yet. It had been 8 or 9 months. Since we've done it. And so they just got the first person that said, yeah, we'll pay an extra 1,000 to be on the homepage, which I was like, oh, I don't think 1,000 is enough for that prime space. So we're already talking about increasing that. Even they've only sold it once. I'm like, oh no, I think that needs to be more than just 1,000 for the privilege to be on our homepage. But But the funny thing is that Bob Castle, who's wonderful, my underwriting manager, they hadn't sold them, so he hadn't even talked to the digital content team about doing this. I mean, we had told him we're going to do it, but like how to execute it. So then he kind of had to walk it, but like, oh, I'm sorry, yeah, I need you to do this like now because it's next week. So, but they did get it together and get it on they found a way to do it. So. But it does require, like we had to make sure everybody in content was okay with it. There was a little, not pushback, but somebody did say in a big staff meeting, I announced we were going to start doing it. Cause a lot of our staff is donors, right? So they're going to get the email. I remember one content producer saying, well, should somebody in news look at that email? And I was like, no, because there's a firewall and trust me, I'm going to be the most protective of our listeners. We'll take care of it, but let me know if you see something, that you disagree with. But so far, no, there hasn't been any complaints about the content at all of the sponsored emails. I think a lot of people are doing that now, and Kendrick's actually the one that kept sending sponsored content emails to our underwriting team to go, a lot of stations are doing this now because she had signed up for so many.
We're fighting that battle with our content team.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of tricky because like, are you endorsing it? But we're very clear in it. It says this is not, this is sponsored content. Thanks to, don't we have a thanks to in there too? Thanks to so and so for their support of WNC. So we make it very clear, like this person's paying for it.
Yeah, it says from our sponsor at the top. It says it in the subject line. It's very clear.
Have you done a split test with your list to see, even if it's a less valuable sponsored content email versus an increase ask or an ad gift ask, and just seeing like what the revenue differential is there? Like doing an additional ask versus a sponsored email.
Oh.
In terms of value generation.
I think I see those as two separate things, right? Anne and Emily, right?
Right, it doesn't have to be an either or.
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't done any, that's actually kind of something I wanted to talk about is like, is anyone doing any A/B testing with their newsletters, and like, what have you found that's particularly been successful? If you have done any testing in that front, I would love to hear. But no, we haven't done any testing on that front. And we do kind of see them as two separate things, especially because our What's Trending list includes prospects, sustainers, major donors, one-time donors, all that kind of stuff. And so we treat the asks separately, just based on their giving. So we haven't really thought about doing any kind of split testing with sponsored content specifically, but it's a good idea.
So we did do some A/B testing in December with our fundraising emails. We did the Mind Time study with Cars. It's the group under Cars. I can never remember what they're called, with Mike Wallace. And so they rewrote some emails for us using the Mind Time study and how you're supposed to talk to donors. And ironically, it did not do any better than what we have already been sending out on our own. They had pretty much identical success rates. So what we found actually makes the difference is the donation page, because we also did A/B testing on donation pages, and that had way more to do with completion rates than anything we put in the body of the email.
What were some like takeaways from the donation form test, if you have any off the top of your head?
Simplifying it, make it one page if you can, so that they don't have to go to multiple places. Not having thank you gifts as the first thing people see on the page. I don't know who all here uses ACD, but their pages used to default to like the thank you gifts were the very first thing you saw on the page, and people are just like gross, and they dump back out of it and wouldn't make a donation. So since we've changed that, that's made a huge difference. Now you actually have to click a button. Not all of our pages have been switched over to this, but you actually have to click a button for those to open up. Otherwise, you don't even see the thank you gifts. But just the shorter and simpler it is. Now we're testing Venmo and PayPal and Apple Pay to see how that goes for us during our spring drive in April. We're hoping that that will further simplify and get a better completion rate on our donation pages.
Okay, so I was thinking about this, like for people who are doing some of the digital, try new things, if you had better success with easier forms of payment where like they don't need their card. And then if you're with a university,
Oh, God.
how you got your university to accept those, because right now we can use Stripe. That's what we're using for NPR Plus, but that has to go to our foundation, which is like a whole like our major gifts person manages all that, and it's like she shouldn't be dealing with $10 a month, receipting. So I'm really curious about all of that, if anyone has something to share.
So we go through our foundation for PayPal and Venmo and Apple Pay because we don't have to deal with the university side of it. We're a little different though. Our major gifts officer is actually housed here. She's under me. She does not actually work for the foundation. Sometimes I think we're stupid because they would pay for her salary and we wouldn't have to. But I also like that they don't have control over her. I get to dictate what we're working on and what we're fundraising for, and that's how I want it. But however, we do, like, we're going to run all that stuff through the foundation just to simplify our lives. It means they take a 5% fee, but it means we get to try it. So we're just going to do it.
I explained because we are in the PayPal battle right now of trying to convince our university licensee to let us have PayPal for running social campaigns, but also ease of donating. They just ran their own internal campaign and I would have donated, except I had to get out my credit card and I didn't feel like digging through my purse. I was like, how many people are we losing because they didn't feel like getting their card out? But we're running into the same securities issue, and it's been a pain. Anyway, so that's why I explained. I'm sorry if I interrupted in a not great way. I forgot I wasn't on mute.
I wanted to add, while we're talking about donate forms, I feel like a lot of places we've put so much effort into testing and tweaking and refining and everything are donate forms. However, for me, the most valuable thing in checking out what's working and what's not with the donate forms is we had an event with the local children's museum here where we had the Daniel Tiger costume and we did like a meet and greet with Daniel and did Kids Day and like all this other stuff happening at the museum. But because Daniel was there and it was a meet and greet, very exciting. We offered Daniel Tiger stuffies that we had left over from ages ago at like a really low donation level. And so I watched about 100 people complete our donation form in real time and saw in real time what they got frustrated with. And I cannot recommend enough to like go to an event with human beings and watch them use your donate form, and you will learn really quickly like what's tripping people up. And I had a few people walk away because they're like, I can't, like, this is like crazy. Like, I can't, like, can't you just take my Venmo, like whatever. Or people like their address, just like wouldn't they were like, this is my address. So we had to like, in order for them to their donation to go through, we just had to put in the station address, like that kind of thing where it's like, so I highly recommend if you have a possibility there, like an event coming up where you can be there in person in real time and like watch people walk through it, help them troubleshoot, you will learn really quickly what you need to tweak on your form and what changes you need to make. Brooke, I feel like you unmuted and you were going to say something. Do you want to? Or maybe I'm calling you out unnecessarily.
No, I don't remember what it was if I did.
Okay.
I was gonna say I had a similar experience, Katie. We go to the Minnesota State Fair as a station, and we had an offer of a $10 tote bag for new members. And so we processed thousands of donations. The fair is like 12 days long. And just like seeing the friction and the frustration of people trying to fill out on our iPads at the fair that just want to grab a tote bag really quickly. But it's also like, what information do we want to leave off with the address? There's like, you need that for your credit card. So yeah, it'd be great to find a way to simplify the form, especially for those kind of large events.
Now, when you have those kind of events, do you use the same form that you always do, or is anybody using a different form just very specifically for event, with maybe some lack of information needed?
We have a special form that we use, and the only premium options are like the tote bag, just to declutter it. But I don't know what our development operations team has like decided about what information can be left off of the form. Usually with a credit card, you, I think, have to provide your address, your billing address, so that kind of complicates that aspect.
I think you have to provide your zip code with a credit card. So at least that much, I believe. Don't quote me. My gift processor would be like, no, you need the whole address.
It might vary state to state. So I would highly recommend, checking in with your own finance team, or getting, advice from local accounting people on that. We found, so after that experience, I was like, what information can we take off this form that we absolutely don't need? Because this is why I can only imagine during a drive how many people are like not completing a form. And actually in the chat, people were talking about what email client you use, and people were talking about switching to Engaging Networks or from Engaging Networks. And we're one of the stations who went from MailChimp to Engaging Networks and then back to MailChimp because our Engaging Networks experience was so awful. And I am not the person to speak on that, but I can get into it with other people separately if you want to chat or get you in touch with the right people. But we, one of the things I liked about Engaging Networks was being able to look at a report of why donation form completions were rejected. And there it would show you like the reason. So maybe it was that their card was declined or they didn't have the right 3-digit code. And from a donor service perspective, it was really helpful because we'd have people call and say like, I'm trying to get this form to go through and it won't work. And I'd be like, oh, I can see right here that your 3-digit code wasn't working. So can you read it to me and I'll fill out the form for you right now. And that was one thing I liked about that platform, was getting that kind of information. I'm curious if anybody else has done any other testing around any of this, whether it's email or donate forms, webs, anything related to digital fundraising, and like, what did you learn? What were your big takeaways?
Didn't we do some around next after with like, I think we even did pictures of
Yeah,
people and stuff.
we did well, with our What's Trending newsletter, we did an A/B test of images included versus not images included. Very basic. Images clearly won, like I hypothesized. So that was one of them. We've done some digital pop-ups with Next After, including new staff's face on some of the asks that pop up. And those have been successful when people, people like to see the people behind the radio microphone. So those have been good for us as well. I think that's all we've done on A/B testing since I joined.
Something we've tested is who the email comes from, kind of similar to the base next to the pop-up. We found our morning edition host. If the email is from him, we get way more donations than if it were from even our All Things Considered host. He's just been here forever and everyone knows him. So when they see his name pop up in their inbox, they're like, oh, George needs something from me. So even though I write it, I'm just the one who puts his face next to it, but they don't know that. And they think George sent them a personal email and they make a donation. So works for us.
Yeah, we have that too. It's like a fine line where you have to like hold your celebrity shot for the right moment, like we can't send all of our emails from Mitch, who's been here forever, but when we do send them or we have him pitch on air, the response is huge, because people do what he asks them to do. We actually recently, I'm curious if anyone else did any fundraising around World Radio Day. We last year tried pitching live on World Radio Day, and it was like okay, but not great enough that we would do it again. And this year we sent 2 emails on World Radio Day. One came from our morning edition host, and was about like it was more like about the service and the program. And then we had a second send that actually was from our director of radio programming that did really well. That was about like the importance of radio and like emergency infrastructure and making sure everyone has access to information and that kind of thing. So oh, Rachel had a question in the chat, which is great. During a fund drive, how many emails are you sending per day? It looks like one a day.
It's looking,
One big day,
yeah, it's looking like most people are sending one a day, which is interesting because we send more than that.
Speaking of emails during drive, I'm curious if anyone has insights as to how you're segmenting emails during a drive or in general when you're sending fundraising emails.
Katie, I'm having trouble hearing her. Is anybody else?
Same.
I don't know
Oh
if
no!
your mic slipped or
It's like
Yeah.
muffled a little.
yeah.
You were clear earlier and now it kind of sounds like you're in a fishbowl.
Oh no. That's unfortunate. I'm gonna see if I can fix it, but I'll post this question and then someone can talk. Which is, how are you segmenting your emails? Like, are you doing big sends or are you whittling down your list?
I'm usually the person who sends the emails, and I'm also taking calls in Pledge Central and managing what's going on in the on-air staff. So usually it's like all just going, and I just have to try to make sure people who haven't given don't get it because they get really upset if they do. I get some really snarky replies. Then maybe I just need to get over that. But so usually just one big one, but I try to keep at least sustainers. I try to segment them a little differently if I can, just to talk to them differently and acknowledge that they give monthly. I'd like to do more. It just kind of depends on bandwidth. And Constant Contact, they really kind of messed me over. I was using a segmenting feature and I did it correctly. They told me that I did it correctly, but they sent it to the reverse. So they sent it to the people I was trying to not have it go out to. And it was just something on their end. And that happened a couple of days. And so I was kind of like just avoiding who I was. Yeah. After that, I lost hope in segmenting.
One segment thing we did recently, and it wasn't during the drive, but there was an email that we had that we sent with a story in it about immigration, and 36 people said that clicked on the email, wanted to learn more about membership, which was really high compared to any other story that we do. And we made a specific email that mentioned that story and then mentioned our immigration coverage and then asked if people wanted to become a sustaining member. So we didn't get any new sustainers from that email, but I am interested in seeing if we would try it a few more times with other stories that are popular to see if we can get donors kind of making a real directed ask about a very specific topic.
I like the idea of that targeted, to the content that they're interested in.
I do too.
We're not seeing any leads either. So is anybody? No.
No conversions from them. No.
I'm trying to decide how much energy to put into like an updated welcome series for those people when like I have to plan a drive.
Yeah. Same.
Or what about NPR Plus?
Now, I will say our station is doing shockingly well with NPR Plus. I don't process the gifts, but I see the emails coming through from Stripe and I'm like, what? How many people? So we're doing better with it than we thought we would. So that's been good. And our December donations through Streamline donations were phenomenal. So better than they've ever been in December before coming from NPR. So
do you promote
What are you doing?
promote it on air at all?
Yeah.
No,
we
no,
don't
we
promote it.
don't. No.
Yeah, we don't either.
We did do a little bit of a push after our December drive, and we did like give the gift of NPR since they had that option. And we had a handful of people who did that. But really we don't, especially not on air. We might post it on social media because it's more that audience. But it's rare, it's very few and far between. We're really not pushing it at all. They're just somehow finding it and coming to us. So
Katie, didn't you offer yours just like y'all do Passport? Did you ever do that?
Yes. Sorry, can everybody hear me better now? Really? I switched to my phone and I was hoping it would be
It's a
better.
little better, I think.
it's a little better.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll hold it up to my face. Oh my gosh, this is ridiculous. I feel like, okay, that's better. Great. Okay,
Yeah.
old school. Oh my gosh. I've never had so many tech problems, and of course it's when all these people are here. Hello. So we actually just recently, for the first time, promoted NPR Plus on broadcast. Last month we did a campaign that we're a joint licensee, so we did an NPR Passport bundle, which you're eligible for both if you donate for NPR Plus automatically because of the donation level. NPR Plus is higher. And I don't have exact numbers yet. I figured this was going to come up, so I just asked someone on our data team. We certainly had more NPR Plus activations than we typically do. I feel like personally that we're kind of reaching Passport saturation in Vermont. Like we're not seeing as many people donate specifically for Passport. And NPR Plus, it just does not seem to be, for whatever reason, with our audience, like a super compelling grab. Now, I don't know if that's because we haven't really promoted it heavily. So I'd be interested to see, if we did some meta ads and things like that, like what would happen. We saw, I would say, marginal success. It wasn't overwhelming, but it was okay. And I will say that NPR Plus, like the tech end of it, I don't know for anybody else, but like it's not, if you are a dual licensee, do not expect the same thing from NPR Plus that you have from Passport. Like the interface, all of it, it's like not as automated on like our end. So yeah.
And heaven forbid you have someone who also gives to NPR Plus. They decide to start doing both. And then they're like, oh, no, wait, I don't want to give to NPR Plus anymore. And I want to double what I'm giving to you, because that is a huge pain. I think it's a huge pain because you have to cancel them on NPR Plus, or Stripe, which cancels their NPR Plus access. And then you can't just add them back. You have to import them as a file. And then they don't get an email telling them that happened. You have to tell them, oh, click on this link to get like an email sent to you. I went through that with a donor and he was very kind and very patient, but I'm kind of hesitant to promote it because of that. So I've been, maybe just adding. I sent it in a mailed letter to our year-end ask to sustainers that gave $5. I was like, increase to $8 and you can get NPR Plus. And so I just added it for all those people that did. And we got actually a pretty good response. And so I'm hoping to try it for spring early outreach.
We did the same thing before Sustainer Appreciation Week, or actually during Sustainer Appreciation Week. We sent it out to everyone at 5 and said, hey, for just an extra $3 a month, you could get this great new benefit. And we did see some success with that. But we haven't had any success with like annual donors getting them to switch. And annual donors don't really care that they can get NPR Plus. It seems like it's mostly sustainers that care. So
has anyone offered it to their existing outside of NPR donor base and then looked at retention rates for sustainers? I'm wondering like if that's going to be a fish hook in the cheek and keep people on. And we don't know yet.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think for us it's too early to know.
Yeah.
I'm looking at time and we have about 4 minutes left, and Stephanie, you have your hand raised, so I'm going to say, Stephanie, you go, and then we'll probably wrap up in the interest of everybody's time.
All right, this is pretty quick, and then they're totally separate topics than we've been talking about, but just wanted to share One is super simple, and I'm guessing everybody's already doing it, but when I was at PMDMC last year, I talked to a few folks that weren't. So we do app pushes during drive, and they're very successful for us. So if you're not, that's definitely something to consider. Sometimes they're duds and we don't know why, but most of the time they're pretty good. And then Katie, you might be edified to know, after you graciously helped me last year, but we just launched a fan club for one of our podcasts here, the Points North Fan Club, in late January, and we were really hoping to get 100 donors in this calendar year, and we are already at 49, and 27 of them are completely new to IPR. We didn't know anything about these people beforehand, and many of them are outside of our listening area. So we waited to do it till we felt like we had the audience, and the response has been really good. And a lot of the people that are signing up are doing it from the podcast, but many of them are also signing up at some live events. We have a trivia night that is part of the podcast that just started the season. We do it all winter and spring long. So that's early because it was just like January 21, but
what do you get as a member of a fan club? Can you tell us quickly?
yeah, I'll drop the link in the chat. It's pretty simple. We did, a bunch of different research, but went simpler, and we can make it more complex later. You get some stickers, you get a wool beanie, and a really nice letter from the host of the show. We're not a station. We don't do any premiums at all, ever. So this is brand new for us to offer anything. So we really wanted to stick with simplicity rather than tiers and more complexity.
Everywhere.
We've done, we're trying to figure out a better way to monetize, but we have our afternoon, he used to be the morning host, now he's the ATC host, has a signature sign off of reminding people to use their turn signals. That's a problem in North Carolina. And we actually made like the whatever your local grocery store is, but where you have got the card and then you've got the pull off that you can put on your keychain, and it was the turn signal club. Hey, yes, Kristen, you have one.
I was just gonna say, I have it on mine. There's a lot of public media stickers on this notebook that I got at PMDMC at the PRADO swap table last year. So shameless plug, go to PMDMC and check out our merch swap table. Anyway, I wanted to share that if people are curious about podcast fundraising and podcast fan clubs, it sounds like there's a lot of interest there. So maybe we could get some stations together that are doing that and do another water cooler on that if there's interest. We are at time though. I love how everybody's so enthusiastic and excited about this. Thank you so much for coming. I'll make sure to post the recording and links that were shared on our Slack channel. And I think that's it. Kristen, Regina, any business before we close?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, if you've got ideas for future water coolers, like this one came from Colby being like, hey, what are you guys doing? And then Katie was like, we should do a water cooler. And Regina was like, yeah, we should do a water cooler. So we did a water cooler. So anytime you have ideas, please reach out to any of us. They're technically the professional development crew, but I'm the president of PRADO, so you can also reach out to me if you have ideas for future water coolers. I think Regina's got one in mind coming up here.
Yeah,
so
we need to just figure out how soon to schedule it, but I really think we need one. I mean, there's lots of discussions going on about like what should we be doing about this CPP funding, possibly being lost. How should you talk about it? What should you be doing during pledge? So I'd love to have just like another kind of open forum, like what are y'all doing? And people that have actually done some too. Like I'm hearing a lot of people saying, oh, we're not going to talk about it, but it'd be nice to hear from stations that have actually done stuff and used it in their pledge drives or used it in their points to see what your results were and what you learned from it. So
yeah, I would love that as somebody at a station whose GM is like, oh, I don't think we should talk about it. And I'm like, we should be talking about it. So it would be great.
I would love that as well. I'll just throw that out there.
Awesome. Yeah. So please reach out to us. PRADO is here to support you. We're here to help you in your jobs. So anything you think we could be doing better, please just reach out and let us know. That's what we want. And keep an eye out later in the year for elections for the PRADO board. If you've ever thought about joining a board, it's pretty low stakes. It's not like some other boards where you're meeting every single day of the week, it feels like. So
I
if you're
feel like
ever
for
interested.
the membership team too, I should say, you know, it's very affordable to be a member of PRADO. It's $50. You get to vote in the elections, but all of this that's done on PRADO, all these coolers, anybody can join, and it's a real point of pride for us because so many of the organizations that help with fundraising are so expensive. It's so expensive to have consultants. So at this just time and moment when everybody needs to be thinking about like, how can we raise more money with what's coming? I'd love to have y'all encourage people to come, encourage people to get on PRADO. A lot of people don't even know the Slack exists, and encourage people to join.
Yes, and we are on the premium plan now, as was pointed out in the chat. So you can
Yay!
go back and find anything from any time. So yes, thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it. And thank you, Katie and Regina, for getting this going, and Colby for the idea. So
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks everyone for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks for putting
Bye.
up with my audio issues. Bye.